This is going to be my summer reading wrap-up. Now, I said this in my last video, I'm usually a very seasonal reader no matter what climate I'm in. So I live somewhere, well, hold on, I need to take a breath. I live somewhere that's really hot and really humid all year round. Summertime is usually my fluffy, fun, lighthearted books, and typically those are romances. I'm looking at this stack, and this was a very abnormal summer for me. I read a lot of books that are fall coded that I would recommend for fall. I'm gonna make that a separate video, but you might see a lot of these books twice. This is very atypical for me. I'll talk about my rating system really quick before we jump in. For me, a 1-star book is it wasn't worth the pages that it's printed on. It was terrible, I hated it. Complete waste of my time. It makes me angry to just think of it. It's rare that a book gets to a 1-star for me because if I don't like a book that much, I just won't finish it. It's also rare, reversely, that I have a 5-star book. So for me, 5 stars is it's perfect. To me, I wouldn't change anything. New favorite book of all time. My list of 5 stars is short. I'm really nitpicky about what books I give 5 stars. I wish I wasn't, and I'll just say that I am no author. But as a reader, very few books hold that 5-star category for me. Then a 2-star is I really didn't like it. Something about it was allowing me to see it through to the very end, but I didn't like it. Reversely, 4 stars is I loved it. Didn't give me those 5-star like perfect feelings, but I really loved it. I really recommend it. I see the vision. 3 stars is unfortunately what I rate most books. Not every book can be the worst or the best book ever. 3 stars is like, usually it means that I liked it, I enjoyed it, it was fine, but nothing about it is memorable. It's not gonna stick with me. If people ask me what it was about, it might take me a minute to remember because I have a lot of memories about books that I really loved and that I really hated. But a 3-star, it's like, that was good, but I'm gonna forget about it as soon as I close the last page. But a 3-star is not a bad rating. 3 stars is probably my baseline for a recommendation. If I rated a book 3 stars and someone else rated it 5 stars or 1 star, I could probably like see both sides, if that makes sense. Something else I was gonna say before we got into the books. Oh, it's officially September. So these are all the books that I read in June, July, August. That is my summertime, again, regardless of whether in my brain, June, July, and August are summer. September, October, November is fall. Oh wait, one more thing. I only have some of the books physically. I read a lot on my Kindle and I check out a lot of books from my library. So if I did either of those 2 things, I'll put it up on the screen. Okay, first book that I read in June was All's Well by Mona Awad. Mona Awad is crazy. This is like a really random book to start the summer off with. If you've never read Mona Awad before, she's not for everyone, but I love her. She's very unhinged. I read Bunny by her a few years ago, and that is a book that I still think about at least once a week. A lot of people describe her books as a fever dream or an acid trip. You don't really know where it's going, and it starts to, I don't know, it's like, it's very trippy, I guess. And I feel like a lot of people wouldn't like the confusion of it all, but I love it. I think she's brilliant. I think her books are so good, and as a theater kid, I really loved this one. So this is about a woman struggling, really struggling with her chronic pain, and a lot of people not believing her. She can't even walk most days, but she is a theater director at a high school. Is it a high school or is it a college? I think it's a college, actually. I think she's a professor. She wants to put on Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well, but her students want to put on Macbeth. I have a pretty good amount of knowledge of Shakespeare. I think not like excessive, but I think I've read like 10 of his plays. Books like this, or If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, that kind of takes inspiration, I really enjoy and I find really interesting. This is an exploration of what it's like to be a woman with chronic pain, and I think that representation was really good, and I think the themes around that topic were really good. But the actual plot of her trying to put on this play and none of her students wanting to. I've never read All's Well That Ends Well. I have read Macbeth, but both plays are kind of, how do I explain this? Aspects of All's Well That Ends Well and Macbeth, especially Macbeth, you can see themselves integrating into the professor's story. It's really, really cool. It's really, really trippy. Mona Awad kind of takes you on a trip where you're like, what is going on? But in a good way. I think she's awesome. I think she's unhinged. I think she's so talented, and I really, really liked this book. I give it 4 stars. Then I read a book called, I got this from my library, it's called Six Scorched Roses. This is a novella that comes after The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I think that's what it's called. That was like a really popular romantasy that has really popped off in the last few years. And I read that earlier this year, and I thought it was a bit overhyped. I think I rated it like 3 or 3.5 and think it was anything like super, super special, but the end really got me and it made me want to read the next one. And then this is the novella in between book 1 and 2. So this is technically book 1.5. And what I didn't know is this novella has nothing to do with anything. This has nothing to do with the original plot of the first book. This is just a novella that takes place in the same world, but like different characters, different time period. I gave it 3 stars. Unfortunately, I've now lost interest for the series as a whole. I think it was because I read the first book, wasn't really into it until the very end. The ending made me want to read book 2, and then I read this and I'm like, yeah, I don't care anymore. He is a vampire in this like very vampiric estate mansion. You get the vibes. And she is a scientist, women in STEM, hello. She goes to his mansion even though everybody thinks she's crazy for that, but she needs his blood to save her town or someone in her life. That's it. And they fall in love. Duh. Then I read a book called Love Redesigned. I read this on my Kindle by Lauren Asher. I read her Dreamland Billionaire series a few years ago. I read this. Those are huge books, and I read all of them in like one night. Not all 3, but I read each one in like one sitting. Something about those books, it was like they had drugs in them. Now looking back, I'm like, they weren't that good. I couldn't stop reading them. This book, I didn't really feel the same way. This is her newer series called The Lakefront Billionaires. I think I gave this first one 3 stars as well. See, the thing about 3 stars is I really struggle to remember what happened. I think he is a billionaire, duh. And then she is an interior designer, and they're working on a house together, like a fixer-upper, and they fall in love. This is definitely more the kind of vibe of book that I read during the summertime, but this one wasn't very memorable to me. I will be reading the next one because the next one, Love Unwritten, takes place in Hawaii, so I really want to read it. 3 stars. People love this series. I thought this first book was okay. Then I reread Happy Place by Miss Emily Henry. I've already done a reread of Book Lovers this year. If you're curious, my big 3 of Emily Henry are Happy Place, Book Lovers, and Funny Story. And the order changes all the time. I should really space out my Emily Henry rereads. My desire to reread this sparked because of Emily Henry's newer release that I read in May, Great Big Beautiful Life. I read that with my book club. And we all kind of had the same feelings where it was just, I think we all gave it 3 stars. Not that 3 stars is a bad rating, but as a massive Emily Henry fan, I was shocked that I thought one of her books was just okay. I've never rated one of her books below 4 stars before. I was telling the girls in our book club that had never read Emily Henry before, that book wasn't a good representation of Emily Henry's tension and banter. Her ability to write romantic tension between 2 characters, you could literally cut it with a knife. That book didn't have it. And so to refresh my memory of what I know Emily Henry is capable of, I reread this one. This is a 5-star book to me. This book is perfect to me. I know a lot of people complain because there's a overarching miscommunication trope and people hate that, and I understand. I don't care. This book is perfect to me. So Harriet and Wen have been dating for a long time. They are engaged. They're a part of this very, very core friend group. Everyone in this friend group is very, very close. They've been close since college. They spent every summer at one of the characters' beach house in Maine. 2 of the characters in this friend group Harry and Wynn fell in love. And as an East Coast girl who had a beach house in college, this book just made me think about my friends on the coast of North Carolina and our college life. Let me take a step back. So Harriet and Wynn fall in love, and you get the past chapters of them doing so, and they are so good, so beautiful. In present day, they have broken off their engagement, but none of their friends know that. It's like genuinely heartbreaking, and they don't know how to tell their friend group. The house that they spent every summer going to is being sold, and so it's their last summer together, and another person in the friend group is getting married. So they have this last week in this cottage on the coast of Maine with all their best friends, and there's kind of a lot going on, so they decide to pretend that they are still engaged and then kind of make that announcement at the end of the trip so as not to like ruin the vibes of the trip, right? So it's an interesting twist on fake dating because it's fake engagement, how awkward they are around each other, but then in the past chapters they're so in love. I think this romance is so good, but more than that, the overarching theme of college friendships when you're young, friendships in your 20s, what happens when you graduate or you move away or life is forcing you to move on, but you want to hold on to this thing so tight because it's the best thing in your life. That conversation is so relatable to me. I mean, I think of my time in college in a very similar way. Luckily, I'm very lucky to have that experience. The heartbreak that comes with having to move on with life and wanting to hold on to this phase in your life, but you like literally can't. I just loved the conversation on friendship, and more specifically friendships in college. Love this book. 5 stars. Perfect summer read. You have to read it. Then I started the most devastating journey of my life. I don't know why I did this to myself in the smack dab middle of summer, but I started a new series that is slowly consuming my every thought, and it is crushing me. I picked up Finding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. This feels weird to be explaining what this is about on the internet because I know in the booktube space this book is like ridiculously popular. This is ruining my life. I'm in the middle of the series. This takes place in Ireland. I loved all the Irish slang. I've never read anything like this before. It's an adult book about young people, but it is not a young adult book. I have seen this in the young adult section at bookstores, and that like breaks my heart because to me the young adult category is like 12 to 17 and then adult is 18 plus. Young people should not be reading this. This book is, I feel like, is an 18 plus book. It's very graphic, it's very dark, it's very sad. It's also a love story in the midst of tragedy. So this book is about Johnny and Shannon. Johnny is like a hotshot, super popular rugby player, like 17 at the start of this book, and he's like about to start his rugby career and he's gonna be huge. Shannon is this like little tiny girl who comes from a very, very, very abusive household, and that is the part of the book that I think could be really triggering for some people. The domestic abuse in this book is described in very graphic detail and it is very hard to read. But the writing is almost like Wattpad-y, and there's a lot of comedic relief with the side characters, so it's an interesting blend of things. Johnny and Shannon, this is book 1 of their story. It's so beautiful. I made a playlist, and that's when you know that I'm obsessed with the book. He wants to do everything to protect her, the way that he sticks up for her, the way that he comforts her and is like her rock. I will say this is like so unrealistic. Like the things that this 17-year-old boy says are things that no 17-year-old boy has ever said. Luckily we have book 2 to heal my broken heart. I got this from my library. Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. This is like a hard left turn. These books are silly. If you've never heard of them, this is book 3. Book 1 is Finley Donovan is Killing It. I've read that book a couple times. I love it. So it's a cozy mystery. I'm looking for more books like this. So a cozy mystery is basically kind of like the plot of a thriller, but told in a comedic unserious way. A lot of people complain that these books are too outlandish and too ridiculous, but that is the entire point. Just know that going in, it's not supposed to be serious, it's supposed to be silly. So book 3, I wouldn't know how to explain, so I'll just explain the plot of the first one. Finlay Donovan is an author and she writes thriller suspense novels. She's sitting in Panera with her agent explaining the plot of her next book. She's also broke and a mom of 2 children, and someone in the booth behind her overhears her conversation and thinks that she is a hitman, and she's like, I'll give you $50,000 to kill my husband. And Finlay really needs the money. So silly, so fun. Her partner in crime is her kid's nanny. Dialogue is so good and so funny. I love that book. Book 2 I thought was really good. Book 3 wasn't as good as book 1 or book 2. I do really enjoy these books. I think they're really fun. Then I read another book I got from the library called The Emotion Code by Bradley Nelson. I will say I don't read a lot of nonfiction unless it's a memoir. It's rare that I really enjoy a nonfiction book. I find them quite boring. And this was no exception. I read this because it was recommended to me by my best friend's mom, and I love her. I love her so much, but I did not love this. It's about how our emotional state can really affect our physical state, which is true. Like, if you are mentally unhealthy, that can represent itself in physical pain in your body. It's not that I disagree with like the basis of this book. It's just that he goes on to say things that are really interesting. A bit of a stretch sometimes. He says that we can like feel the pain of our ancestors, and sometimes we have to break free of our ancestors' pain. We'll feel better. I don't know, just like random thoughts like that. I'm like, what are we talking about? Then I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's really, really short and it's really different. This book was actually published in the 90s. This year, I've seen this book everywhere, but it's not a new book. Picked this up in London. This is about 40 women that live in a bunker underground. It's kind of like a prison. They don't have like bathrooms. It's very dystopian, very creepy, and one day they escape. And most of the women remember what life was like before they were in the situation. Like, they remember being married, they remember eating pie. Like, they remember life, and they try to describe it to our main character, who was either born in the bunker or has been there since she was a toddler, so she's the only one who doesn't remember any other lifetime. This is all she knows. And then they escape and go on this journey of like trying to figure out what to do now. It's one of those books that is supposed to make you think, and I did really enjoy it while I was reading it. Just so you know, the reason why these 40 women are in this situation is never explained, and I feel like you should know that. I mean, it's written in the introduction of the book, but I feel like you should know that going in, because if you're reading this looking for an answer, you're not going to have one. Very interesting, something different. Then I read another nonfiction. I know, look at me. I read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. This is another like super short read. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the theory of the 5 love languages. This was given to me by my brother and sister-in-law. They said that they both read it, they really loved it, and they feel like it helped them understand a lot of things about themselves and about their spouse. I don't really feel that way. I don't think this book told me anything I didn't already know, but I did read it. 3 stars. Yep, that sounds right. Then I read a book that I listened to on audiobook through Libby. If you don't have Libby, it's awesome. You have to have a library card, but Libby is basically connected to your local library, and it's the same thing as checking out a physical book, except it's all digital. So you can check out ebooks and read them on your Kindle, and you can check out audiobooks and listen to them for free. So I listened to this audiobook, and I think audio is like the only way to consume this story. The audiobook production of this was perfect. I wish all audiobooks are like this. I know it's really expensive to make them like this, but I feel like Lisa Jewell wrote this for it to be an audiobook, if you know what I mean. Probably one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. I love thrillers, but unfortunately, thriller is a very specific genre where if you read enough of them, they become very predictable. Same thing with the romance genre, right? But with a romance, you don't really mind that it's predictable because you know the two characters are going to end up together. And that is a comforting thought, and it's one that you expect. Versus the thriller genre, you always want to be caught off guard. Like, the feeling of thinking you know what's going on and then being wrong is something that I'm always chasing. But once you read enough thrillers, you kind of pick up on foreshadowing things, which is like not the author's fault, but it is kind of a bummer. I just love the element of surprise. All that to say, this is the best thriller that I've read in a long time. A little bit hard to explain. It's about these women, Josie and Alex. They are both celebrating their 45th birthday at the same restaurant. In the bathroom, they realize that they are actually birthday twins. They were born on the same day in the same year, 45 years ago. They're celebrating their 45th birthday in the same restaurant. If I'm remembering correctly, they were born a few miles apart. A very bizarre way to meet someone. They're both like, what does this mean? And Alex hosts a very famous podcast, and Josie is like, I know we just met, but you should have me on your podcast. I have a very interesting story. Usually with thrillers, you want to know the least amount of information as possible, so I'll leave it at that, but I rated this either 4 stars or 4.5. Then I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I don't read a lot of the same genre in a row. I like to switch it up. I read all of John Green's YA novels back in middle school when everybody else did, and I think this one was published when I was in high school. I don't really know what compelled me to pick this up, but this is about main character Aza, who really struggles with OCD, and I've heard John Green say that her character is a reflection of his own OCD, and being in her head was so stressful and so complicated, it makes me feel really horrible for people who experience this. That part, I think the representation is done really well. That's the main point of this book, I think, is an exploration of main character's OCD, but there's also a plot where this very famous rich billionaire has gone missing, and the two characters, Aza and her best friend, have a connection to said billionaire's son, so they think can like solve this case and get the money because there's like a huge reward. And so they're going on this little adventure. There's a romance between Aza and the billionaire's son, but more than anything, it's about OCD. And I gave this 3.5, I think. This is when I was in my like summer reading bag, because then I read Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. Annabelle Monaghan is perfect for summer reading. Her and Emily Henry both, I think, are queens of like the summer book. I read Summer Romance by her last year, and I think that one is still my favorite, but I went back to her backlist and started with this one. It goes back and forth between past and present timelines. It's about this girl who, I think it starts out when she's like 12 years old or something, going to this beach house with her family on the coast of Florida, and then her neighbor at the beach house, Wyatt, is the same age as her. As years go by, they fall in love as teenagers, and then in present day, it's them as adults. They haven't seen each other in a really long time. They're not together anymore. I loved the past chapters of this, just the depiction of being a child in the summer at the beach. Very nostalgic feelings attached to this. Look at this. Do you guys drink your chlorophyll? Tastes like peppermint. I was talking about this book, and I was talking about how the author wrote childlike nostalgia about being a kid at the beach in the summertime really well. She also wrote like the depiction of falling in love for the first time at a really young age. It was so beautiful and so real. She writes sentences that seem very simple but almost like stop you in your tracks. She just has a really good brain. The past chapters I really love, the present timeline not so much. The issue is this is a romance between the main character Sam and her first love Wyatt, but in present day she is engaged to someone else and the whole time you're just like waiting for that other shoe to drop. I gave this 4 stars. I really liked it. It's short, it's summery. Reading about this young teenage girl who is just like a child. She's not trying to grow up too fast. She's like 12, 13, 14 years old, and she's really true to herself, and she loves the beach. She loves to swim. She loves looking for shells. And reading this by the beach in a good way made me want to put the book down and like go play. Then I went straight into Nora Goes Off Script by the same author. This one was really unique and fun, also really short. This is about a screenwriter who writes scripts. She decides to write a film based on her relationship with her ex-husband. It's kind of the story of their life and their marriage and the downfall of it because her ex-husband is like a little bit insane and we hate him. She's like, this is so unhinged, it would make a good movie. And it gets picked up, they think it's gonna be huge. They hire some of the most famous actors to play her and her ex-husband in the movie. And the romance is between her, the screenwriter, and the guy who is playing her ex-husband in the movie. It's just like really fun. She has 2 young kids. Annabelle Monaghan also writes single moms a lot, and I think she writes them in a very beautiful way. The young kids get really attached to the movie star, and this honestly felt just like an early 2000s rom-com. Like, I know this is a book about a movie, but it would also make a really good movie. I really liked it. 4 stars. Then it had to be done. It was time to jump back into the Boys of Tommen series. This is book 2, and this is the conclusion of Johnny and Shannon's story. So the Boys of Tommen still being written, it's not finished, but they're not interconnected. You have to read them in order. This was painful, also beautiful. To watch them grow and heal and fall more in love with each other was so beautiful. These books are slow burn, which I love. All the TikToks that are like, bring back yearning. Why does every book and movie not have yearning anymore? What happened to that? This, I think, does yearning and pining and pain so well. They definitely don't fall in love too fast. I don't even think they kiss until this book. I could be wrong on that. It's very, very, very slow, which I personally love. The ending. I would have to go on mental health walks every day after finishing this to decompress because I was thinking about Johnny and Shannon so much. 5 stars. Then I went into Summer of '69 by Ellen Hilderbrand. Ellen Hilderbrand is a classic summer author for me. I mean, her books are perfect to read in the summertime. Destiny Sidwell always says that every time she reads an Ellen Hilderbrand book, she feels like the fun single aunt on a family vacation with like a glass of wine by the pool. Her sunglasses on and her big hat. Like, that is the vibe. I don't know how to explain that, but it's perfect. They're just very mature, but also fun. They're just general literary fiction. They're all set on Nantucket. Again, I'm an East Coast girl. This is about kind of a large family in the summer of 1969, and it goes through each of their perspectives on kind of the big drama that's happening in their family. Her books are just like full of drama. This book was kind of long. It's a little bit too long, honestly. It was a really good depiction of kind of this balance between this like iconic American summer where everyone was having a blast, but at the same time it was the start of the Vietnam War, right? Or the middle of the Vietnam War. So there was also that like looming, overarching fear instilled in everyone, and it kind of discusses both well. So parts of this book are really tragic, and then parts of this book are really fun. I really liked it. It was a really good summer book. I gave this 4 stars. Then I got from my library The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I didn't love this. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. I read this in like 2 days, so for that factor alone, it was like entertaining, but the ending made me feel really icky. And not in a good way. Like, sometimes thrillers can have this like dark aura that's kind of fun and intriguing and interesting to read. This one was like not. I think she could have done something really different, but just it icked me out. And I can't really explain it without spoiling it. I was entertained for the most part, and, you know, entertained enough. I would say it was like a 3-star book until the end, and then it was knocked down to a 2.5 because I was like, ew, that did not sit right with me. I guess I could tell you what it's about. It's about this girl who See, the thing about 3-star books, they escape my memory. A girl named Amber who befriends a woman, Mrs. Parrish, and she kind of intertwines herself with this woman and her husband, Mr. Parrish. She kind of becomes obsessed with them and integrates herself in their life on purpose, and kind of what unfolds from there. It was fine. Didn't like the ending though. Then I read an historical fiction called Salt to the Sea by Fruta Cepetis. Oh gosh. So historical fiction is the history and the event is real, but the dialogue and the characters are fictionalized. So this is about the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff in World War II. And it was the greatest maritime tragedy in history, but no one ever talks about it, and a lot of people have never heard of it, which is crazy because everybody knows about the Titanic, right? But on the Titanic, only 1,500 people died. And on the Wilhelm Gustloff, 10,000 people died, and most of them were children. It was just really, really hard to read. I picked this up because I was looking at my shelves and I was like, okay, summer's coming to a close. I should read a summer book. I think this one takes place on a boat. Sure. It was so sad. So sad. I don't read a lot of historical fiction because it makes me so sad, but I know that these stories are really important. I feel like I learned a lot. I was really diving deep on the history of this tragedy, like on the internet throughout this book and after finishing it. It's just a crazy piece of unknown history when so many people died. They were trying to get German civilians to escape from the Red Army that was attacking their villages. This ship was prioritizing women and children. It goes through like 4 different characters' perspectives when they're on this boat, and I rated it 4 stars. I think the only reason why it wasn't higher is because of the ending. The ending was a bit random to me. Obviously, history tells us how this story ends. Like, we know that the ship sinks, but it doesn't end how you think it would. I mean, I guess there's no real way to end it, and again, I'm no author. It felt like she just like stopped writing instead of writing a real conclusion, which like maybe she did that on purpose, I don't know. But beautiful story, important piece of history. I would really recommend this to anyone, but really sad. Save. Can't talk about this anymore. I read Saving Six, which is book 3 in the Boys of Tommen series. This is the start of Joey and Aoife's story. Joey is Shannon's brother. Very abusive household, and Joey is the older brother, so he gets even more of the abuse. He gets the bulk of it, and I'm literally about to start crying. His life is just so hard. He's such a complex character. Shannon, in her book, it's easy to root for her because she is completely innocent and so vulnerable and so weak and small, and that's not her fault. But Joey is a lot more complicated. He doesn't really know how to express his emotions or process his emotions at all. He's trying to take care of this entire house full of his younger siblings because his parents won't do it. Just from such a young age, having to be a father instead of an older brother. This is his relationship with Aoife. I think Johnny and Shannon are very cookie cutter good people to their core. I mean, I know that Joey and Aoife are too. They are inherently good, but they're written in a more complex way. Aoife is very fun. She's very much herself. She's so full of life, but she can also be a little bit of a brat. She can be really feisty. She can be tough. I really loved her and related to her and thought she was just an amazing character. And then Joey, words on paper, Kinsey. This is fiction, this is not real. He's just suffering and going through a lot. This book, I think, has even more triggers than the first 2. Huge trigger for domestic violence and huge trigger for drug addiction. And those 2 things make Joey a very complicated person, but I love him. 5 stars, or maybe 4.5. 4.5 for Saving Six, but I'm predicting Redeeming Six to be 5 stars. Then I've read Counting the Cost. I got this from my library. This is by Jill Duggar, who was one of the kids from 19 Kids and Counting. This book was crazy. I understand that these people are her parents and she speaks about them very kindly. I understand like wanting to uphold that relationship or not speak super negatively about her parents, but I was getting angry. Her parent, oh my god. gosh. This book is just her story of what it was like growing up as a child whose entire life was on a reality TV show. Also about the morals and things that were put into her brain being raised by these two people. It was crazy. I feel like she was really nice about it. But just the underlying, you can just feel it in this book. You're like, ugh. I don't know what else to say, but it was really, really, really good. It feels weird to rate someone's life story, but I enjoyed reading this. I found it extremely interesting. I remember that show being on when I was a kid. How that would affect a child, every moment of your life being filmed for a TV show as a young child with all these people in your home would already be weird. And then on top of that, having this guy as your father, I feel really bad for those kids. Then I read Dinner for Vampires. This book felt kind of similar to Counting the Cost. I mean, it's entirely different. It just is like a similar vibe, I guess. This is a memoir by Bethany Joy Lenz, who plays Haley Jane Scott on One Tree Hill. That is a show that I love. I only rewatch the same like 5 TV shows over and over and over again, and that is one of them. I love that show, and her story is crazy. The whole time she was filming that show, she was in a cult. It was just really interesting. I'm also extremely interested in cults. I have dived deep into quite a few of them. She talks about how, like, now that she's out of it, when she tells people that she was in a cult, the first thing people ask is, which one? They just assume it's like some big, insane thing that they've heard of, when in reality, it was just in this small town, and it started as a Bible study, a little like house church thing. The Bible study leader ended up convincing everyone in the group to cut off all their friends and family, to only have relationships with people in this group. They called him Pop or Father, Dad or something. He was in control of all of their finances. Really, really preyed on the vulnerable and manipulated all of these people. When people ask, she's like, oh, it was just this guy's house, like it's not something you've ever heard of. He even like arranged for Bethany Joy Lenz to marry his son. So she married the cult leader's son. I mean, she didn't have relationships with anybody, but she was filming this show, and they were very supportive of her filming this show because she made a lot of money. And they stole like $2 million from her. She talks about how she wasn't able to connect with any of her cast members, which is just really sad. I mean, you film a show for that long and it turns into such a big show. You would think that you would become so close with your castmates, and she just didn't have that opportunity. Or rather, that opportunity was taken away from her because she was brainwashed by this weirdo. She is the victim here. I'm not trying to say that she's, anything. It is definitely like his fault, him and his wife. What a weirdo. Anyway, she also talks about, oh my god, this part was literally making me cry. She talks about how obviously Haley and Nathan get married on the show, and they have a very, very healthy, beautiful relationship. #Naley. Talks about how Nathan and Haley's story of marriage and love and commitment was just not relatable in her own marriage. And there was such a contrast between what healthy marriage looks like and what her actual life was like at home, and that almost helped her get out of it. Stop. I love that show so much. I felt horrible for her. I loved it. I thought it was great. Last book I read to wrap up the summer was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I think this is her debut novel, but the first book I read of hers was The Summer Will Be Different. I think I gave that 3 stars. Don't remember anything about it, except I remember the setting. She can write setting so well. I think that is her strong suit. She really knows how to describe a scene that absolutely just puts you there. This book takes place on a lake in Canada, and it's about these 2 young kids spending every summer together, falling in love over the course of time as they get a bit older, but they're still really young. They're teenagers. And I love a second chance romance. I love childhood friends to lovers. I love when those 2 things are combined. I think that's like my favorite trope. But I will say, a lot of books written like that, you go back from the past chapters when they're falling in love as kids, and then the present day when they haven't seen or spoken to each other in X amount of years. You know that you're gonna learn why they haven't spoken to each other, and typically the reason why is really stupid. It's usually just a big misunderstanding, miscommunication. If they would have just grown up and talked to each other, then this could have all been resolved. I will say in this book, the reason why they haven't spoken to each other, the reason why they broke up, I was like, oh, yep, that would do it. I don't know how you could come back from that. I understand it's been a long time. I really liked this book. It was exactly what I needed after reading so many heartbreaking books in a row. Counting the Cost, Salt to the Sea, Dinner for Vampires, The Boys of Tommen series, like after reading so many gut-wrenching books back to back or in very, very close together, this was the exact book that I was craving at the time. Fluffy, romantic, sweet. I'm curious about people's thoughts about the ending because I don't know if I could recover from that, but I'm happy for them. This was good. I really liked it. It was what I needed at the time. 4 stars. Okay, those are all the books that I read this summer. Bit of a random list, but I kind of like switching up genres, not sticking to all the same things. I had a good reading season. Very excited for fall. You might see a lot of these books on my fall recommendations video, but thank you so much for watching. Happy September. Let me know your favorite book that you read this summer, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Okay.